Welcome everybody to another segment of my show, Dave's Corner. This is Dave D. Saint. I am here bringing you some of the news that has happened this past week or the week before, and some movie reviews that I have been kind of lingering on telling you guys some of the stuff. It's not that I've been lingering on, it's just that I've been caught up with doing other things and everything, work and all that stuff. But I am back, and I want to bring you my point of view on certain things, and bring you some of the news that I've found out. So yes, without further ado, let me get to it. As you can see, I decorated my background a little better. Yeah, I am a little fanatic with Harley Quinn and the Power Rangers, so sue me. Look, I just got myself a nice little tat of Harley Quinn. Just me. But yeah, without further ado, let me continue with my show. This was probably going to be a little shorter. It's going to have to do a lot more with reviews than with news, because I haven't really heard much. All the news is probably going to be mostly about the Batman film. But let me continue. All right. Well, the first bit of information that I wanted to bring you guys, you probably already seen this. It's been all over, all over the internet. The House of Dragons, the poster has been released. If you're fans of Game of Thrones, then you've been hearing news that they're dropping a new show or a new series or whatever. As a matter of fact, they're dropping quite a few different series. I heard that there was like 6 planned or something like that. I don't know. But if that's the truth, then House of Dragons is going to be the first series to drop. I have no idea what it's going to be about. I have no idea. Supposedly it's going to be a prequel to what, the Dragons, or is it going to be the what's her name, Daenerys? I don't know what's going to be. So maybe it's going to be about Daenerys' family. I don't know. Weren't they like the dragon people or something like that? I did see the show, but they really didn't explain their background or her family or whatever the case. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing it. Hopefully it'll catch on like how like Game of Thrones. I mean, a lot of people sat through the whole 8 seasons, was it, of Game of Thrones, just to be let down at the end. I mean, that's what happens when people become idols of something. They make a show or anything an idol, they get let down. Whatever. I mean, I caught on to the show late into the series. Like, I started watching it like literally at the end of the seventh season. But I mean, I got to catch it all. I did become a fan of it, and I was a fan, and I just couldn't. I tried to make sense of the last season and try to find the yes, that's what they meant, and yes, that was but it was just they really messed up. Can't really do much about it. Well, continuing on. Netflix is releasing a new show with Henry Cavill called The Witcher. And as far as I know, they have planned already 7 seasons. So they must think that this is going to be a pretty big hit. It's pretty hard to know. And see, that's the thing. When people talk about a show or a movie and they plan out all these sequels and all this stuff, that's when they're literally heading toward failure. I think they should just stay shut up about any plans for anything else. Just release the show and let's see if we even have a hit. I mean, they could be flopped. It could be a flop. I mean, there's so many stuff that has flopped recently. I'm going to get to one of them, but yeah, Henry Cavill, his face is plastered all over this. Just like his face was plastered all over the Batman films. I mean, Man of Steel was okay. Batman vs. Superman, I enjoyed it. I'm a DC fan from the get-go. But I do, after watching it a few times and seeing what people are complaining about, I did see a lot of flaws in the Batman vs. Superman movie. And then the Justice League, the same thing, And a little bit of information, Jason Momoa came forth and said that there is a Snyder Cut, that it's amazing, but we're probably never going to get to see it. I would think that Warner Brothers would do something to release this film so that, at least they can make their money back through Blu-rays and DVDs. I mean, yeah, it's not going to be as much as it would in the theaters, but still, make some sort of money back. Release that movie. I think there'll be a lot of people that would go and see this movie or buy this movie. I would definitely buy this movie. And I will stream it. I would go crazy trying to view what I missed. I mean, supposedly Zack Snyder actually finished the film. If he did, we'll never know. Hopefully one day they'll decide to release it. Zack Snyder has the movie. Jason Momoa has seen it. He was quoted on an interview saying that he's seen it, that it's awesome. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see if Warner Brothers decides that they want to release the film so people can see it. Whatever, to each his own. A little bit of Sony Marvel news. Spider-Verse 2 is coming out. Spider-Man, Spider-Verse, if you remember last year, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse hit it big. It was one of the biggest films of the year. It won an Academy Award. It caught people by surprise. Everybody who thought, oh my God, Sony can't produce a Marvel film or a Spider-Man film or whatever, they actually had hit. And all these Marvel fanatics, all these MCU, Disney fans were like, oh my God, it's true. They released something good. So now they're working on the sequel. We just got the poster. I'll post it up somewhere over here, and it's to do with it's more Spider-Man characters are going to involve in this. I'm not fluent with the whole Spider-Verse universe. I do know that they have confirmed that the Japanese Spider-Man that they released in the olden days for, I think it was like some kind of I think he had like a Zord, or he was part of the Power Rangers, I don't know, but Spider-Man was in Japan, and he is confirmed to come into this Spider-Verse, so it's going to be cool to see him, and there's going to be a couple of other surprises in the film, so I'm very, very anxious to see these movies. Continuing on with Sony movies, what's his name? Tom Hardy has been teasing pictures posted up here of cartoon Venom, and on the bottom like a cartoon Carnage. I don't know if it's in a design for a tattoo or if it's a little teaser thing for the Venom 2 movie that's coming out. So I mean, that's something that to look for. I mean, I'm hoping that what's his name, Woody Harrelson, is still attached. I would like to see him as Carnage. I mean, unless they take him off and they put somebody else. But I know that Naomi Harris is still being considered for Shriek if she hasn't already been casted. I still haven't seen anything. I mean, it could be already been. She could already be casted. It's just it hasn't been released to the public. Who knows? But I'm kind of excited for it. I mean, I did like the first Venom movie. I did see a lot of plot holes. I did see a lot of things that they should have made people aware, but now that Spider-Man is sort of kind of with Sony and Disney, and maybe he'll make an appearance. I'm looking forward to it. Why not? Continuing on, Robert Pattinson is training for Batman. Okay, I don't know if you've seen the pictures, but you see him, he's over here tumbling and all that stuff. It looks like he's really getting into shape for the Batman film. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm excited. Like I said, I'm a DC fan, and from what it looks like, they are going in with all these different casts, people that they've been casting and all this different news and all that stuff. Like, from what I understand, Matt Reeves is adapting kind of like already a set universe when it comes to Batman. He's not gonna do another origin story. Like, I mean, come on. We've done 1,000 Batman origin stories. We've done just about every superhero origin story. So he's from what I understand, he's doing more of a Arkham Knight or Arkham Universe type thing. It's already set, so he's gonna involve all these different villains, and of course, Batman's gonna be in it, which is gonna be played by Robert Pattinson, and you got Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman, Paul Dano as Riddler. From what I understand, Riddler is going to be the main villain to this film. So, I mean, I have no idea. That's what I read. So, let's see what he has to bring. Because, I mean, I still don't know about that Paul Dano guy. I mean, I've seen him in a couple of movies. But, I mean, the Riddler, I always see the Riddler always fast-speaking. As a matter of fact, somebody who would have been perfect, somebody who I heard was supposed to be the Riddler, would have been... what's his name from Eisenberg, Jesse Eisenberg. I think he would have been awesome as the Riddler, but I guess he lost his chance when he did Batman vs Superman. But then again, he's doing other things, so who knows? I mean, let's see what Paul Dano has. Who knows? Further news, we have Andy Serkis to portray Alfred Pennyworth. It still hasn't been confirmed, but he's supposedly in talks to play Alfred Pennyworth. Now, this is something that people have been talking about on the internet, which was, why is Andy Serkis playing Alfred Pennyworth and not the Penguin? Because supposedly Colin Farrell is in talks to play the Penguin. It doesn't make any sense, but I mean, I gotta trust that Matt Reeves knows what he's doing. Matt Reeves is a good director. He's done a couple of awesome, films. So let's see where he takes this. I am open. It's really hard to see right now because of the fact that we don't have the finished product, but maybe he knows what he's doing. I don't know. It's whatever. And supposedly this Batman film is going to be a Sherlock Holmes-esque type film. So we're going to actually get to see Batman in his true detective mode. I mean, we've seen it in the Arkham games when he detects so many different things. And I've always heard that he's the ultimate detective. So if that's the case, then I guess it would be awesome to see this movie as Sherlock Holmes-esque type film when we see him put things together, right? Well, I mean, it's always open. I mean, let's see what happens. The cast, from what I understand, still hasn't been all set. Still coming in. New news is starting to come in. I still haven't seen the suit. I want to see Batman's new suit. I mean, is it going to be... I don't know. Is it going to be futuristic? Are they going to go with an old school type? I just can't wait for this movie. Continuing on, let's just step away from the Batman. That's all the Batman news that I got. Okay. Bit more of information. Fantastic Beasts 3 is setting up to go into production. If you're a Harry Potter's fan, then you're probably excited for this. I actually... Part 1, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, I wasn't really too keen on it, but when I saw Fantastic Beasts, The Crimes of Grindelwald, that was actually a pretty good movie. So let's see where this goes. I mean, supposedly there's like 7 films to be made from this. Like, what's her name? J.K. Rowling really can't milk a franchise. I mean, Harry Potter's her bread and butter, so why give up? I mean, this one isn't really about Harry Potter, but I mean, it's within the same world, so whatever. And finally, Blade and Black Panther get release dates, and they are slated for Phase 5 of the MCU. Blade is slated, it's rumored to change, but it is said that it's February 18th of 2022. So that's 2 years from now. And then later on, Black Panther is slated for May 6th, 2022. So we got 2 African American led films coming out of that year for MCU. for Disney. So it's going to be a pretty powerful year. So I can't wait. I want to see what further stuff is coming out that year. If DC's dropping new things, who knows? Let's see what goes on. And to top it off, I just want to mention, I mean, you've already seen the pictures and you've already seen the memorials and all that stuff. I just want to, give homage or mention them. We lost earlier this week, we lost John Witherspoon, one of the most funniest men to have ever lived. I mean, he did movies from Friday. He did movies. He was in the Wayans Brothers. He was, oh my God, this man was drink some coffee. Drink your coffee. Coffee make the world go round. Oh, don't tell nobody. I mean, this guy was hilarious. And it's just sad to lose such a great talent. But then again, we're all expendable, We live our lives, and then we die. We leave a legacy. And he left a legacy of laughter. People enjoyed him. I loved him. I thought he was hilarious. And the second celebrity to pass away, he's from Latin America. He's a famous astrologer. If you grew up in the 80s like I did, into the 90s, into probably the early 2000s, then you probably saw him on Telemundo or Univision. And he would pop up talking about the astrology, and his name was Walter Mercado. He was one of the most famous astrologist out there, and we lost him mid this week. And I'm not saying that it's a sad thing when anybody dies. I'm not saying that I'm gonna miss him personally, because honestly I really didn't know much about him. I just would see him pop up on TV, but his family's gonna miss him, and there's a lot of people who believed in the astrology that he talked about. So rest in peace, and hopefully you're doing your astrology wherever you're at. My heart goes to you. And with that, that's all the news that I got this week. Hopefully I'll have news for next week. By the way, I just got back from the movies. I saw this amazing film. I cannot talk about it yet. I will talk about it on the next review. But this time, I have 5 movies to review. So let's get started. I should have reviewed 2 of these last week, but I got so messed up with news and all that stuff that I totally forgot about these 2 movies. But I'll bring them up now. First movie that I want to talk about, Maleficent, Mistress of Darkness. What can I say? I went to Staten Island, to the dine-in theater over there, and I went to go see this film. So, we sat up front. It was really close, but we were sitting in the Dolby Cinema. That's the only way to watch a movie. It's either Dolby or IMAX. Digital, if it's on digital, it doesn't hurt me. If it's a regular film, I don't mind watching it on digital. But if there's an option to go to Dolby, if there's an option to go to IMAX, I'll choose either or. And another thing is I do A-list, so I'm always reserving my tickets from right at the beginning. So yeah, I went with a couple of friends down to Staten Island, dine-in, got myself a really delicious milkshake, and we watched the film. What a awesome film. Honestly, I enjoyed the first one. This one was way better. The budget was pushed up. You see the CGI. We get to see Angelina Jolie and her people, which is those flying beings and all that stuff. We get to see further into the future of Princess Aurora and her wedding to her prince, and the new villainess, which is played by Michelle Pfeiffer, and she was awesome in it. I loved the whole conflict between Michelle Pfeiffer and Angelina Jolie, and just the whole heart. At one point you think that Angelina Jolie's gonna go full evil, but the love. We already established that Maleficent Part 1, she loved Aurora, so the love that Aurora has for her changes all that around. I don't really want to release too much about the film because honestly, this is a movie that people are gonna watch. Disney's racking in some pennies with that money, with that movie, and it was definitely worth it film. I enjoyed it a lot. If you're gonna choose a film this week, go watch Maleficent. If you haven't seen it, you'll definitely like it. If you have kids, take them. Take them. It's a good time. It's a good time. A good family film. There was even scenes where I got emotional, and I don't get emotional in films as long as they're good. Then I'll invest myself in. I might get emotional, but this movie actually had me a little bit. I was actually at the edge of my seat, jumping for joy when I saw those flying beans. It was awesome. So it's a good time. Go watch it. If not, I mean, hey, whatever. Continuing on, next film to talk about, Zombieland 2. Zombieland Double Tap. 10 years ago, we got Zombieland. It was a runaway hit. Jesse Eisenberg, Emma Stone, Abigail Breslin, and Woody Harrelson. One of the funniest comedies to involve horror. It was a horror comedy. And it was an amazing film. I thought it was great when I saw it. And supposedly they were going to do a sequel right then and there. But something happened, and I forget what it was. And it got stuck in limbo for a very, very long time. So much so that these actors went on to do other things. And each and every one of them either won an Academy Award or an Oscar or nominated it. Each and every one of them have some kind of accolade to add to their thing. So it's so funny to see them come 10 years later to do a sequel. But in between the 10-year hiatus, they tried to do a Zombieland TV show. I don't know if you guys have seen it. It was, I believe it was on one of the networks. I think it was Hulu or Amazon. I forget. I saw the episode. I think it could have had something, but unfortunately, they never released it. You could look it up. It's like a half an hour. Was it a half an hour or was it an hour? It was a live action zombie show, and it would have been funny, but I guess they just didn't sell. So 10 years later, we get the sequel, and this movie had me dying. They really stepped it up. All four are back. They even they get new people to join the team, and it was back and forth. Zombie, obviously we get zombies, gore, rated R, but it's just they step it up a notch. It was funny. I laughed so hard, but I just saw, like, I'm very I can actually predict certain things, and even though some things were predictable, I still loved it. It still was funny. I really hope they do a part 3. If they don't, then okay, that was a great ending. But I wouldn't mind this series to keep going. It's a fun movie. It's a fun set of films, and I mean, Emma Stone is so cute. So I mean, here's hoping that they make sequels. If not, then okay, I'm very happy with what I got. Zombieland 2 is a definite watch. Came out around Halloween. Same thing as Maleficent. So they're both definite watches. I mean, if you are with your buddies and you want to watch a good film, if you're with your girlfriend, you want to watch a good film and you want to laugh, whatever, go see it. It's a good film. Continuing on, let's go. Terminator Dark Fate. Anything with the Terminator, I'm a love. Look, I'm an 80s baby. I grew up watching The Terminator and Terminator 2 in 1991. Those movies were immaculate. Years later, they decided to do Terminator 3 Rise of the Machines. I enjoyed it. I loved that movie. Not as much as Terminator 1 and 2, but I loved it still. It was cool to see Arnold come back. They involved a new TX, which was a new Terminator, and that was the beginning of a new trilogy. Unfortunately, although it made its money, the reviews weren't as good, so it kind of went into a little sleeper mode, or it went downhill. And then years later, we get a trailer for Terminator Salvation, which was the sequel to Terminator 3. It was already dealing with the war in the future, and McG had signed on with Bryce Dallas Howard and Christian Bale. Christian Bale was supposed to be the new, or was the new John Connor, and we were supposed to get a new trilogy with McG, and it was honestly, to tell you the truth, one of my least favorites of the Terminators, but I still love the Terminator. The T-800, and seeing the new, Marcus Wright, who he was. We don't even know what kind of Terminator he was, or if we do, I don't know off the top of my head. But that was supposed to be a new trilogy, but unfortunately, that's when the company who was producing the film went bankrupt, and that those set of movies went on hiatus, and they took a very long time. Now, around that time, you got to understand that when James Cameron wrote The Terminator, he dreamed up this, kind of like what Wes Craven did. Wes Craven had this dream of this man who was wearing a hat, a fedora, and then he saw this article about some boy who died in his dream, or died dreaming, or something like that, and that's how Freddy Krueger was born. James Cameron had a similar type of dream. He dreamt of this robotic skeletal figure walking away with knives and from a fire, and that's how the T-800 was born. So he wrote this story, and he pitched it to Orion Films. Orion Films was like, you only have Piranha 2 under your belt. We don't trust you to direct this movie. So, yeah. So what did he do? He sold the Terminator script to Gail Ann Hurd for $1. And she was more respected, I guess, in the Orion and all that stuff. So they decided to share together, and they got the movie done. They directed it. He directed it, and she rewrote a little bit of the script, but he directed it. In this movie was a box office hit, and till this day is one of the biggest films. And then obviously the sequel was made, T2, and one of the it was a film defining picture. Like, this movie T2 defined so many different things with the CGI and all that stuff. It just broke new ground, you know. So as you can see, it went from, it was jumping. The rights were jumping from place to place. They went from Orion to Warner Brothers to Carol Cole. They went to so many different. The rights were jumping all over the place, and finally landed in Skydance. But before they went into Skydance, it just was, they even fell on Warner Brothers' lap, and they did Terminator 2, then they did Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines, which was supposed to be a trilogy but fell through. So they did a Terminator Salvation, which was a sequel to Terminator 3, set later in the future, and that was supposed to be a trilogy, but that fell through because of the critical response. It made its money, but it was a critical failure again, and it went on hiatus because of the company going bankrupt and other stuff. So the rights to that film were shelved, and they were stuck in limbo for a long time until finally the rights were taken out. They were put on auction, and Skydance grabbed them, bought it, and decided to produce the new Terminator, which was more of a reboot. They decided to send the Terminator back to Terminator Part 1 and kill off the Terminator, starting everything anew. Unfortunately, Terminator Genesis was one of the biggest flops ever because it was so confusing. I remember going to see this movie. If you blink your eyes, you are confused. If so, it's already hard enough to believe that time travel actually exists in this world, but now you're putting parallel universes. Now you're making it into a Donnie Darko film, and that just made it so much more confusing. And everything was done through, I don't know, it was just so complex. And it was a critical failure. It was supposed to be another trilogy. It made its money, but unfortunately, nobody was going to go see part two because it. Yeah, so if you're just tuning in, that guy's going to be right there staring at me like he always is. He's always, as I'm doing my shows, he's always jumping up and down in front of me, so I have to put him back there. Alrighty, so like I was saying, nobody was going to go see a second one to Terminator Genesis because Terminator Genesis was already complicated enough. So they waited and they decided to reboot it. But then again, they were like, you know what? Instead of rebooting this all over again, why don't we just make a real part 3? You know, James Cameron did Terminator 1. James Cameron did Terminator 2. Why don't we get, Skydance was like, why don't we get James Cameron, being that it's the 35-year mark is already up, instead of, getting the rights taken away from Skydance, why don't we just bring James Cameron in and give him a deal so he can stay here and we can pump out more Terminator movies? Because supposedly they wanted to do a trilogy to the Terminator, but with the 35-year mark coming up, the rights were going to go back to James Cameron and Gail Ann Hurd. Everybody's like, oh, wait, well, is it going to go back to James Cameron? No, James Cameron did something that he shouldn't have, and he sold his rights. He 50-50. They share 50-50 rights to this property. So Gail Ann Hurd has, part ownership. So they decided to get James Cameron on board, and they did. Supposedly they got Gail Ann Hurd on board too, so I mean, we haven't really heard nothing about her. She's just keeping silent. And but James Cameron is all tied up with Avatar and Avatar 2 and Avatar 3 and like 50, 60. I don't understand why he wants to stay with Avatar. Like, I really hope that this movie's going to be big, because I mean, he's been sleeping on this for a long time. But supposedly he came in as producer. So this is the story that he just released. There was a statement that was just released a couple of days ago, because as of now, Terminator Dark Fate is one of the biggest flops of this year. You got to understand, I'm a big Terminator fanatic. I'm a like everything Terminator, even the flops, because I love the Terminator. But I do understand the points that are being made. So James Cameron, he explained 2 different scenarios. He produced the movie Alita Battle Angel, and he did his thing with Robert Rodriguez. Robert Rodriguez takes the title as director. But he even explained it. Robert Rodriguez wanted to make James Cameron's vision into film, but James Cameron was like, no, I'm here to produce, I'm here to help you out with what I can, but it's your movie, I'm giving you total reins to this movie. But Robert Rodriguez wanted to like, okay, you have a vision, I want to make your vision. He was like, no. Now with Tim Miller, he chose Tim Miller to do Terminator Dark Fate. Tim Miller wanted pretty much to get rid of James Cameron from that point. And he wanted to crap on our childhood. For the last 5 movies, the movies have revolved around John Connor. Keeping John Connor safe, John Connor this, John Connor that, John Connor that. Terminator Genesis tried to make John Connor the villain. And that didn't work. So in this movie, in the first 5-10 minutes, we kill off John Connor and we kind of reestablish this whole new world. Skynet never happened because Skynet was destroyed. But then again, there's Terminators being sent back. So who's producing these Terminators? Supposedly Legion, this new company arose, but we never get an explanation to this Legion company. So we have no idea where they come from. So what they're doing is they're getting rid of all the manly aspect of these films, and they're trying to start a new feminist film when it comes to the Terminators, starring Linda Hamilton, that horrible actress who played Denny, who was like the new John Connor, and the female Terminator who's like an automaton. She's like she was what's that called? She was augmented with metallic pieces and all that stuff. So she's supposed to be like the new Terminator savior thing or whatever the case may be. So you got 3 lead females, and obviously Arnold Schwarzenegger is going to be there because obviously no Terminator film can be without Arnold Schwarzenegger. I mean, even Terminator Salvation, who didn't have him because he was doing the whole governor thing, they animated his face into the film. And they kill him off. Obviously, you know, every Terminator film, the Terminator has to die somehow. I enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun watching it. But after a second viewing, I started understanding and seeing what these people were talking about and how bad this movie was. And when James Cameron came forth and he actually threw Tim Miller under the bus, I was like, this trilogy is done for. They need to just leave this series alone. Leave it with part 1 and part 2. And if anything, this is I'm afraid to say this, but honestly, sell the Terminator rights to Disney, because Disney's the only thing that's actually saving things now. You know, I mean, they were screwing up on Star Wars, but somehow they're still maintaining with the whole Star Wars franchise and all that stuff. So I mean, if anybody's going to make justice to it, I guess Disney would be the only people who actually brings justice to the Terminator series. I mean, they're going to bring back Predator and they're bringing back Alien. So, I mean, they own the rights to those. So, I mean, let's see what happens. But the Terminator, man, I really was rooting for this film. I mean, the trailers looked good, but honestly, to tell you the truth, now that I come to think of it, the trailers were kind of dead inside. They were just all show explosions and all of this stuff. So, that was my Terminator review. I mean, if you want to go see it, it's definitely a popcorn flick. It wasn't great, and especially if you are a Terminator fanatic, it doesn't continue. This timeline is so confusing and so messed up. The only 2 that make sense is part 1 and part 2. I mean, even part 3 made sense, but that's where they started incorporating humor. And then they try to go back to basics with Terminator Salvation. And then when they brought Terminator Genesis, they went back to humor. And in this one, they even try to bring the humor again. It's just all over the place. It doesn't make sense. So, I mean, save yourself the $1. Watch it on Netflix. Watch it on even Morpheus, you know. But whatever. Continuing on, next movie that I'm going to review, Harriet. The movie based on Harriet Tubman's life. Well, not Harriet Tubman's life, but what she did for the slaves. Okay, so before I watched this film, as you know, I'm an avid... I like to do my research. So I read up, I saw videos on YouTube of Arminta Minty Ross. That's Harriet Tubman's real name. Later on, as you start, well, in the film, she adopts the name after she becomes a free slave, after she becomes a free woman. But she actually started calling herself Harriet during her marriage with her husband. Who was a free slave, who was a free man. She was a slave, but he was a free man. So, but in the film, she adopts a name after she becomes a free woman. She taps her mother's name, Harriet, and obviously her husband's name is Tubman. So, Harriet Tubman. So that's the name that she adopts as her free name. So, and as you know, I mean, I don't want to reveal too much, but the story goes that Harriet Tubman went on the Underground Railroad and she helped freed, a lot of slaves, which was 87 to be precise in the film. That's what they say, 87 slaves. And then she went off to help lead, soldiers in the Civil War. This movie was very accurate from what I saw, from what was depicted, because I did avid research. I did fluent research on her because I don't like to be surprised. I like to know what I'm going to watch and see if it's actually accurate. And it was accurate. It was very, very well depicted. I thought it was very, very well acted. Now, this is where the controversy comes in. Somebody posted up something online about this movie being about a white savior helping black people and all this other stuff, which was so untrue, because I saw the film, I read the accusations, and it was false. A lot of people, especially a lot of African Americans, are protesting against this film because of that. I do understand the thing that Comcast was partially the people who produced this film or something like that, and Comcast has some kind of deal with. I mean, if you saw the Breakfast Club interview, I forget what the guy's name was. I'll make sure I look it up and then I'll post it somewhere around here. He talked about Comcast denying African American basketball. I think it was college basketball to be aired or something because there was no money in it. I don't know. Well, I don't know exactly the story, but I know that Comcast did something that the black community is very, very upset with, and they are protesting against them. There's also some controversy about the actress in this film. She's like something British. I don't know. She says some kind of views. They call him the African American community ghetto. I don't know. I forget what it is. I can't quote 100%, but I know that there's a lot of controversy going against this film. Honestly, it's so sad to see all this controversy coming out on a film that is so vital and so important to so many African Americans, and especially a lot of our youth, our African American youth. This movie could be utilized as a tool to teach Harriet Tubman's history, for like Black History Month or whatever, and they want to explore more into Harriet Tubman's life. This movie could have been utilized as something like that, but unfortunately, there's so many people against it that I mean, hopefully Comcast is able to make amends and take back what they said or something, because this movie was a good movie, and it's a shame that it's going to be brought down because of such silliness, because of somebody or some people denying the African American community the proper respect or the proper funding or whatever the case may be. It's so wrong. But I enjoyed the film. I didn't know all this stuff was occurring when I went to go see the movie. I thought the movie was a very, very, very important piece of history, and I got to see Harriet Tubman as like a real life superhero, not a modern, but a real life superhero, because of the gift that she had, being able to speak to God and God speaking to her and telling her all these different things and all that stuff. It was pretty cool, and if you look at the poster, she looks pretty badass. I mean, I honestly, she looks like a bounty hunter or something, but whatever. And now my last film to review. Robert Pattinson, Willem Dafoe did a movie called The Lighthouse. Wow. It was such an amazing film. Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe, two men who start their shift at this lighthouse for about 4 weeks, and it turns out that they're there for longer, and they start to lose their sanity, their sanity, and they start to go insane. All they have to keep themselves entertained is liquor and themselves, and they just start to lose it. They go insane. They end up trying to go after each other and kill each other, and it becomes a horror film. But it's a slow descent into madness, and it was what's that called? A shocking intro or introduction, or a shocking revelation of what I mean. I've already seen Willem Dafoe play a madman or a crazy man or a villain, but Robert Pattinson, he did so well. Oh my God, both of them together just blew my mind. I would not doubt it if this movie was up for some kind of an award, Academy, Oscar. This movie was up there. It's like, I'm talking about Joker up there. Like Joker with Joaquin Phoenix, he blew that part out of the ocean, out of the water. Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson are just as up there. They are on a whole other level when it comes to this film. It's a black and white film. It's shot in the olden style. It's on a set. There's literally 3 people for the cast, if you don't count the seagulls. You have Willem Dafoe, you have Robert Pattinson, and you have a mermaid that keeps popping up and down. These men are, it's freaking it's an art piece. I wouldn't recommend it to everybody like, oh, let me go see it with my boyfriend because this movie's supposed to be great. No, you're going to be bored out of your mind. You have to have an open mind. This movie's not for everybody. If you didn't enjoy Watchmen, if you didn't enjoy The Joker, then you're not going to enjoy this. Watchmen was an intelligent piece. The Joker was just as intelligent as that. If you are only in it for the bombs and colors and all that stuff, you don't really pay attention to the plot, then this movie is not for you. Okay, this is the type of horror movie that will not be for you. Go watch Rainbow Bright or go watch Clueless. Like I used to tell my sister all the time, your movie's Clueless. Okay, so, and with that, I come to a close. Yep, I have finished my news and my movie reviews. My name is Dave D. Saints. This has been Dave's Corner. Until next time. But before I go, I want to actually stop and let you guys know that I have not forgotten about Dave's book report. As a matter of fact, being that Dr. Sleep just released in the theaters, I am going to be reviewing the book previous to that, which I also read, which would be The Shining. But yes, stay tuned for that. That should be coming up this week. Sometime this week, I will be shooting it. So I'll hope you enjoyed it. If you like my video, hit subscribe, hit like, leave a comment. I love you. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas around the corner. Bye.